Hello everyone and welcome to my review of the latest Age of Empires 2 update, which came out a few days ago on June 27th. According to the developers, this is a big one, so I think it's important for everyone to know exactly what changes were made to the game. A quick note before I start, I will not be covering every single change made to the game itself. If you want to see a long list of the changes made, there's a link to the update below. This video is going to focus only on general and civ-specific balance changes. These are changes to civilizations and to specific units, structures, bonuses, and technologies. Changes to maps, campaigns, gameplay, etc. will not be covered, although I do recognize that they form an integral part of the game itself. Now, other channels like Spirit of the Law have gone into the exact details of the mechanics of the changes, and pro players like the Viper and Hera have commented on them from the perspectives of the ones actually playing the game. Links to their commentary are included below. It is superb, and I highly recommend you watch it all. My goal with this video is to provide a high-level look at the changes and see which civs I think are the clear winners and which civs I think are the clear losers. I should also point out that some of the changes apply to specific civilizations in the game, while others apply to specific units, structures, and technologies shared by most, if not all, civilizations in the game. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. The Bohemians had one change designed to make it easier to micro their Hussite wagon. Although the Hussite wagon isn't exactly a popular unit, even this small change is good news, and might mean we get to see a little bit more of the mobile wall in action. I know pro players aren't big fans of this unit, but being able to protect units behind you from enemy projectiles is a pretty cool feature, so I hope we do get to see more Hussite wagons rolling across the map moving forward. The Britons also had one change made and will now receive gambesons. This is the Castle Age technology that adds +1 pierce armor to militia line units. I think this is going to be a significant boost to the Britons, since it means they now have a pristine infantry line. I've always said that the Britons lack a powerful tanky unit in their arsenal. Cavaliers are great, but generally the Britons train champions to act as their brute force dealers. And since many players who fight against the Britons tend to rely on skirmishers or archer units of their own, Briton champions will now be better able to protect their archer comrades when battle begins. The Bulgarians received a boost to their unique unit, the Conic, specifically the dismounted Conic, which will now get more base melee and pierce armor. I love this change since I think the dismounted Conic tends to die way too quickly, and as one of the only two-for units in the game, it's a shame that the dismounted Conic generally lasts a split second before it lies dead on the battlefield. Blink and you'll miss it. With extra armor, maybe we'll get to see this unit stick around a little bit longer. The Burmese have been scrambled up like the eggs I had for breakfast. Just kidding, I of course had leftover pizza for breakfast. But anyway, to start with, their unique unit, the Elite Rambai, has had its attack reduced by 1, but will now also benefit from chemistry, the Imperial Age technology that, among other things, increases the attack of archer units by +1. What this essentially means is that if you want your Elite Rambai to be at max power, you'll now have to spend an extra 300 food, 200 gold to do it. A side effect of this is that if you are an Imperial Age and just have basic Arambai, it kind of seems like their attack can be increased from 12 to 13, which could possibly dissuade players from spending 1,000 food, 750 gold to upgrade their Arambai to Elite. After all, the difference in attack strength will now be only 2 instead of 3, and the HP and pierce armor increases are quite small, although their dog shit accuracy does jump from 20% to 30%, so a mixed blessing for the Arambai, I would say. And that's not the only change to the Burmese. Before this update, their Castle Age unique technology, Howdah, gave their battle elephants more armor, and their Imperial Age unique technology, Manipur Cavalry, gave their cavalry units a big attack boost against archers. The developers have now switched the timing of these two technologies. Howdah will be available in Imperial Age, and Manipur Cavalry will be available in Castle Age. On top of that, Manipur Cavalry will also become cheaper, but the attack bonus it gives against archers will be reduced. I think this is going to make Burmese Knights and Light Cav, which already come equipped with all stable and blacksmith upgrades, lethal to archer civilizations in the Castle Age. Move aside Shravamsha Rider, there's a new archer killing horsey unit in town. The Byzantines had some changes to a few of their heavy hitters. Their unique technology Greek Fire, which previously gave fire ships more range and gave bombard towers splash damage, will still give fire ships more range, but will now give both bombard towers and Dromans increased splash damage. Those same bombard towers will deal 25% splash damage and no longer do friendly fire. On the whole, this is definitely an improvement to the Byzantines, but one which I don't think will have a major impact on their gameplay, since both bombard towers and dramens are not, in my experience, regular components of the majority of Byzantine builds on the most commonly played maps. The Chinese, a civ that players have been either loving or complaining about forever, are having their infamous technology discounts slashed. Technologies will now be cheaper by only 5% in Feudal Age, 10% in Castle, and 15% in Imperial. Since this discount is a pivotal component of the Chinese civ's versatility and their ability to switch between branches of the military quite quickly, I believe this change will hurt the Chinese, although I think a player's game style will dictate just how badly it does. Do you spend every ounce of gold, every log of lumber you have once you gather it, or do you hoard your resources like a pharaoh on his deathbed? The answer will dictate how badly you feel the pinch of paying 5% more for technologies starting in Feudal Age. The Hindustanis are getting Saracened with a few economic changes. To start with, they will lose access to guilds, the Imperial Age technology that reduces the commodity trading fee from 30% to 15%, making it cheaper to buy and sell resources at your local market. But before you start feeling too sorry for them, when the developers taketh, the developers giveth as well. Instead of guilds, the Hindustani unique technology Grand Trunk Road will now also reduce their commodity trading fee from 30 to 10%. And will be cheaper to research. Remember that Grand Trunk Road is a Castle Age unique technology, meaning that the Hindustanis will now be able to buy and sell resources much more efficiently much earlier on, which will help them balance their economy and afford to pay for their very expensive late-game army. Speaking of that army, their unique unit, the Gulam, has also been improved to make it stronger and tankier. This is a welcome change since I think the Gulam is an awesome and underused anti-archer unit whose mobility rounds out the Hindustani army perfectly. The Italians, the quintessential cost-cutting civilization, is getting another discount, although one that is somewhat questionable. The cost of their unique technology Pavice, which makes some of their units tankier by increasing their melee and pierce armor by +1/+1, will now be changed from 300 food 150 gold to 200 wood 150 gold. Although numerically 200 is obviously lower than 300 and thus technically a discount, I wonder whether the change from food to wood cost will help or hurt the Italians. In my experience, Pavice is generally researched for an archer-heavy army composition, and archers generally cost wood, not food. So 200 wood spent on Pavice is 200 wood not spent on Genoese crossbowmen, normal crossbowmen, etc. On the other hand, saving 300 food does help a player afford more hand cannoneers and archer blacksmith upgrades. Ultimately, like the change to the Chinese, I think the impact of this change will depend on the specific game style of the player. Speaking of archers and ranged units, the Koreans, who used to have a blanket wood discount of 20% on all of their military units except for siege, will now have an even bigger 50% wood discount for their archer and infantry units while retaining the same 20% discount for their warships. Combined with the Korean bonus for free archer armor upgrades, I suspect we're about to see a whole lot of Korean archers on the field of battle. However, to make sure the Koreans don't start spamming their war wagons like the Goths love to spam their Huskarl, the cost of the war wagon has been adjusted to make sure it remains the same price as before this change. On the water, the second unique unit of the Koreans, the turtle ship, will now be affected by siege engineers, the Imperial Age technology that will increase its range by +1. The turtle ship, like the Bohemian Hussite wagon, is a super fun unit, and I'm hoping we get to see a lot more of it now that the developers have improved its range, one of its main weaknesses. The Magyars just got another tool to help them kill you as fast as possible. In addition to already coming with more range and extra armor thanks to the recurve bow upgrade, their cavalry archers will now train 25% faster. And by the way, this is now their team bonus, so any teammates' cavalry archers will train 25% faster. The flip side of this change is that the Magyars lost their previous team bonus, which gave their foot archers extra line of sight. This makes their foot archers a lot more susceptible to being ambushed throughout the game, although this will probably be felt a lot more in Feudal Age and early Castle Age, when foot archer pressure is nigh ubiquitous, and spotting structures like castles and outposts are not yet out on the map to help with vision. The Malay got anti-Britoned and lost access to the Gambeson's technology. For a civilization that not only gets all infantry armor upgrades for free, but can actually turn their two-handed swordsmen into 65 food trash units with the Force Levy upgrade, of course, this change will have a pretty big impact on Malay players seeking to overwhelm their opponents with slow-moving but hard-hitting infantry, which will now be a little bit more susceptible to archer fire. That being said, if you let your Malay opponent get up to Castle Age, or God help you, Imperial Age, you may have more pressing things to deal with than infantry, like ridiculously cheap battle elephants and zerglings, karambit warriors raiding your rear end. The Malians, who are currently enjoying the panoramic view from atop the leaderboard of civilizations, are having their gold drop-off bonus reduced from 15% to 10%. Unlike other changes that impact specific technologies or bonuses at specific points in the game, this one affects the Malians throughout the game from Dark Age to Imperial, although if you're collecting gold in the Dark Age, you might be Scrooge McDucking it a little bit too much. Militarily, the Malians late game can be quite expensive with Farimba Cavaliers, hand cannoneers, and siege units, so a chronic reduction in gold income from minute 1 of the game, even one as small as 5%, may seriously hinder their ability to field the army of their dreams. The Persians, oh man, what do you even say about this civilization? An economic powerhouse with an incredibly strong and diverse tech tree, but also a civilization whose unique unit, the War Elephant, is seen about as much as the Loch Ness Monster. To address this, the developers have decided to increase its line of sight? But worry not, those same developers have promised us that changes are a-comin'. The nature of those changes, the timing of those changes, all unknown. So, like I tell my wife after I finish stuffing my face at the buffet and my pants look like they're about to burst open in front of everyone, I don't know what's about to happen here, but try to enjoy the suspense. Speaking of economic powerhouses, the Portuguese are going to have to pay more for their late-game economic shenanigans. Ever wonder how your opponent can afford to field such an expensive army while you've already moved on to trash units? The answer is likely their unique economic structure, the Feitoria, which auto-generates all 4 resources. In an effort to deter over-construction of this structure, which has the same efficiency as 9 villagers, it will now cost more gold and more stone to build. Will this deterrent work? Based on my calculations, a single Feitoria will need approximately 3 extra minutes to generate the additional resources needed to build another Feitoria. Do you have 3 extra minutes in Imperial? The Slavs are getting a small boost to their monks that's going to make relic gathering a little quicker and their smush a little stronger. If you're not familiar with what a smush is, it's basically a siege monk rush, and it relies on a symbiosis between siege units and monks. Any melee units brave enough to try to attack your siege units get converted by your monks, while any ranged units silly enough to try to snipe your monks get wrecked by your siege. To make this attack a little stronger, Slavic monks will now move 20% faster, but will lose access to the Fervor technology, which is the Castle Age tech that makes monks move 15% faster. Ultimately, the loss of Fervor is not really a bad thing. With the new bonus, Slavic monk speed is already faster than it would be with Fervor, and the Slavs don't have to spend 140 gold to get that upgrade. Instead, they can train an extra Mangonel or Scorpion with that gold and smush even harder. Like a few other civs, the Turks are going to see a change to their unique unit, the Janissary. The base Janissary model will now have 7 range instead of 8, making it a lot more vulnerable to counterfire by siege and archer units in Castle Age. My experience with the current Turkish meta is heavy reliance on light cavalry units and cavalry archers over Janissaries, so whether this change has a significant impact on gameplay has yet to be determined. This reduction in the range of basic Janissaries may also inadvertently drive Turkish players towards hand cannoneers in Imperial Age. Hand cannoneers come with the same attack, same armor, and higher accuracy, not to mention a massive attack bonus against infantry, which the Janissaries don't have. But with their strong gold mining bonus and free light cavalry upgrades, the cost of going up to the elite Janissary may not be so daunting in Imperial. Ultimately, no matter how you slice it, the range reduction does mean one thing. Players using basic Janissaries will now have to pay a lot closer attention to their micro. The Vietnamese are a civilization whose current status is the worst civ I just don't understand. But regardless of the reason, it seems the developers are keen on addressing their low win rate. When deciding whether to tamper with their powerful military or strong economy, the developers chose, well, a bit of both. Economic technologies which already cost no wood at all now research twice as fast. Imagine roiding up your villagers with wheelbarrow and handcart in just over a minute, while saving 250 wood at the same time. That's an extra military building or a lot of extra archers. It's also an extra villager you can produce in the time you save. Or you can save that wood to pay for your elite skirmishers to become imperial skirmishers, as that upgrade will now also be cheaper. On the whole, this is a welcome change to a cool civ that hopefully means the Vietnamese can get a large, efficient economy up and running quicker so that they can start producing those super tanky 420 HP pothead elephants and protecting them with imperial skirmishers. And lastly, the new kids on the block, the Romans. The poor Romans, who are already being changed before they even made it to ranked ladder. Oh, by the way, before we get into those changes, the Romans are now enabled for rank play, so get out your togas, pour yourself some vino, put on the Gladiator soundtrack, and check them out. There were a number of changes made to the Romans, but almost all of them only affect their navy. First, their galley units no longer get a +1 attack for free. Instead, their Castle Age unique technology ballistas will now also give their galley units a +2 attack, but will no longer make these units attack faster. Their free naval armor boost has also been changed so that galley and drahman units only get +1/+1 armor, but this extra armor now also affects basic galleys as well, making them a bit tougher in feudal age. The only change on land is actually a pretty cool one. The Centurion now positions itself behind infantry units to keep it safe from harm. The Roman Centurion is a heavy cavalry unit that actually increases the movement speed and attack speed of militia line units within its radius of 10 or 12 tiles, so keeping it safe and secure makes Roman infantry, which, by the way, are already so lethal, stay lethal for much longer. It's difficult to say whether the changes to the Romans are a nerf or a buff, since there is no history of gameplay for the civ. Theoretically, the loss of the free +1 attack boost is balanced by the new +2 attack boost, although this +2 attack boost now costs the Romans 400 food and 300 gold, and the loss of extra armor for the drahmans and galleons is balanced by the extra armor gained by basic galleys. The positioning of the Centurion behind the infantry does potentially save it from sniping, which benefits the infantry under its command, but it also means that when the battle actually does start, the Roman army potentially loses a strong fighting unit that comes with a charge attack, decent HP, and all blacksmith and stable upgrades. At the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see how the Romans fare against the more established civilizations. In addition to the civ-specific changes made by the latest update, there are also some balance changes made generally to the game. Militarily, these changes seem to affect some of the game's slow but powerful units. To start with, both battering rams and capped rams had their movement speed and garrison capacity increased. I'm quite interested to see how this affects siege gameplay. If your rams are attacking structures, then they'll get to those structures faster now. But if your opponent's melee units are heading towards your rams, getting ready to kill them, the two will collide faster as well. Remember the high school physics question about two trains approaching each other at different speeds? Think that. Moving on to another slow but powerful unit, battle elephants are getting a big boost to their line of sight. I love this change since it gives these slow waddlers a better chance to escape if they see trouble up ahead, especially since their line of sight will now be higher than spearman line and knight line units prowling the map looking for elephant kebabs. That being said, the higher line of sight still doesn't compare to a monk's line of sight, so tread carefully. The cost of upgrading to elite battle elephants has also been reduced by about 15%, which I'm hoping means we get to see a lot more wrinkly butts on the battlefield. Staying on theme, heavy scorpions are getting 10% more HP, which means they'll last a little longer against counter units. Whether this longevity means we'll see more heavy scorpions or not remains to be seen, but it's a neat little change to a unit that has the deadly ability to mow down entire rows of units. Lastly, the game's only spellcaster, the monk, is going to have to pay a little bit more for a gym membership if it wants to bulk up. The Sanctity technology, which gives monks 15 more HP, will now cost an extra 55 gold. As this is usually one of the first, if not the first monk technologies that's researched, especially on closed maps like Arena, this change means players should budget accordingly. The remaining changes I will point out relate to the economic side of the game. To start with, both stone shaft mining and gold shaft mining are going to be cheaper for every civ that has access to these upgrades. The majority of the savings will be in wood, which could help you pay for an extra military building in Castle Age right as you start ramping up military production. Or maybe you'll build a few extra crossbows or skirmishers and go attack your enemy's wood lines. And while we don't go chasing waterfalls, if you are playing on a map with lakes, rivers, and water in general, your fishing industry is about to get a little weaker. The gillnets technology, which increases the work rate of fishing ships, has been changed so that it only increases the food gathering rate by 20% instead of the previous 25%. It's unclear if this reduction from 25 to 20% will also impact the actual construction of fish traps by fishing ships, or if it just affects food gathering. And speaking of fish traps, for reasons unknown, these structures now also receive anti-building damage. So if you see obuchs or war wagons or huskarls coming over the horizon, maybe think about walling off your fish traps. So now that we've reviewed the changes made by the June update, let's take a look and see who the clear winners and losers are. On top of my list of clear winners are the Burmese, the Hindustanis, the Koreans, and the Vietnamese. The Burmese, with Manipur cavalry now available in Castle Age, might become one of the most deadly anti-archer civilizations in the mid-game, especially with safer elephants, who will now also cost less to upgrade to elite. The Hindustanis now have a much more efficient economy, with the second best market rate in the game after the Saracens, and cheaper shaft mining upgrades. And their mini Huskarl unit, the Gulam, just got a lot more dangerous. The Koreans will now have access to much cheaper archers and trash infantry units. One of the turtle ship's biggest weaknesses has been somewhat addressed. Shaft mining upgrades will be a bit cheaper as well, and their rams will move quicker and garrison more units. The Vietnamese now also benefit from both civ-specific and general changes. Their economic technologies now research twice as fast, the Imperial Skirmisher upgrade is cheaper, their battle elephants will have more line of sight and cost less to upgrade to elite, stone shaft mining will be a bit cheaper, and their rams will move quicker and garrison more units. Other winners, although to a lesser degree, are the Britons, the Bulgarians, the Byzantines, the Persians, and the Slavs. Also worth noting are the Cumans, who will now be able to put on even more feudal age aggression with quicker battering rams that can garrison more units. At the top of my list of clear losers are the Chinese, the Malay, and the Malians. The Chinese will need to work on tightening their economic game since their long-standing technology discount has now been reduced. The Malay, who love to spam their trash two-handed swordsmen, will have to be a little bit more careful when coming under attack from archers if they do so. And the Malians will have to figure out a way to deal with a chronic reduction in gold income, which will definitely affect their ability to field a hard-hitting but expensive army in the late game. Other losers, although to a lesser degree, are the Portuguese and the Turks. Also worth noting are civs who train monks as part of their regular meta. These civs will now need to pay a little extra for their monks to get swole. I'm talking about civs like the Aztecs and the Bengalis, for example. I also have a list of civs whose changes I'm not yet sure about. Will the benefit of better micro for the Hussite wagon, a unit we see infrequently, be cancelled out by the increased cost of sanctity, which affects Bohemian villagers as well? Will the Italians benefit or suffer from the change to the cost structure of the Pavice technology? How much will the Magyar foot archers roaming the map with less vision suffer while their bigger mounted brothers thrive? Will the Roman military machine be better or worse off after the changes we looked at? One thing is for sure when it comes to the Romans, though, their heavy scorpions, which are already cheaper, come with less minimum range, attack faster, and benefit from ballistics, also just got a little bit tankier. But by far, the biggest question I have is, what the hell is going on with the Persians, and when will we find out more information about the upcoming changes? What lies in store for this 25-year-old civ, and will we love it or will we hate it? In any event, this has been my summary of the changes made by the latest update. Whether you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below. As Emperor Marcus Aurelius once said, everything we hear is an opinion. But what's not an opinion is the fact that if you're new to this channel, you should definitely subscribe and check out my fun daily videos and regular shorts and live streams. Until next time, good luck and have fun.